It's the appointed time. We have the quorum. There is another meeting in the other room, so I had to make attendance for the other meeting. I will call the meeting to order now. First agenda item, information papers issued since last meeting. The Secretariat has not issued any information papers. Please be noted. Agenda item 2, enhanced provision supporting the convention and exhibition industry in Hong Kong. I will now invite the government officials into the room. Members who would like to speak, please press the button now. We have with us today Mr. Algernon Yao, Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. Mr. Johan Wong, Deputy Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. Mr. Harry Lin, Principal Assistant Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. I'll now give the floor to Mr. Yao. Secretary, please. Thank you, Chair. The nation's 14th five-year plan continues to support Hong Kong to enhance its status as an international trade center. And the C&E industry is an important element in Hong Kong. The epidemic has brought challenges to Hong Kong. Since October 2020, under the Anti-Epidemic Fund, the government rolled out $1.07 billion for the Convention and Exhibition Industry Subsidy Scheme. Over the past 2 years, the government has funded 199 convention meetings and exhibitions and amounting to $553 million. And one-off relief was provided to organizers to help them cope with the impact of the prolonged postponement or cancellation of exhibitions under the pandemic. The Chief Executive has announced in the 2022 policy address that the special measure would be further extended to late June 2026. And the government will roll out a new $1.4 billion scheme on the 1st of July 2023. And this scheme will operate for 3 years.
定期喺會展中心
And to support recurrent exhibitions held in the Convention and Exhibition Center and the Asia World Expo. The current exhibitions will receive an incentive equivalent to 50% of the venue review, subject to a cap of $20 million for each exhibition. We expect to be able to provide subsidies to different exhibitions under the new scheme. We hope members will support this new scheme, and the government will seek funding approval from the LegCo in accordance with established procedures. That's all for my briefing. I welcome members for questions.
Thank you, Secretary. Members can now ask questions. Before asking questions, just a reminder, as it involves financial proposal, if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in relation to any matter being discussed, please, in accordance with Section 83A of the Rules of Procedures, disclose the relevant nature of the interest. And please note the regulations in relation to voting in case of direct pecuniary interest in accordance with Section 84 of the Rules of Procedures. 4 members have requested to speak: Dr. Chow Man Kong, Mr. Sunny Tang, Dr. Wenny Hong, and Mr. Ma Feng Kuo. Each member can speak for 5 minutes. This will involve a financial proposal. So, after expressing your views, please state whether you support or you are not in support of the relevant proposal. Dr. Chow Man Kong, thank you, Chair. This proposal is actually well received by the trade. As at the 30th of November, a total of 199 exhibitions were convened, with a sponsoring amount of $553 million. I support this proposal, and I also welcome the new proposal to be implemented. Only half of the money is spent, and it is not likely that the remaining will be used up, so will the government fine-tune the criteria, for example, extending the scope as well as adjusting upwards. Will other venues other than Asia World Expo be included? Secondly, with the epidemic development in mainland China and with further relaxation or opening up, some mainland business tours have been snatching orders. With Hong Kong having its epidemic situation subsiding, we will have to rebuild our local economy. Some international business visitors will come to Hong Kong. With different kinds of competition, will the government increase the number of flights from overseas to Hong Kong, or will the 500,000 air tickets be distributed to business visitors? Will free accommodation or dining vouchers, coupons, subsidies, or facilitating arrangements be arranged targeting business visitors? Thank you, Dr. Chow, for your question. The project will run until June 2023. If there is remaining amount, how we will deal with the remaining amount? As we already canceled the compulsory quarantine in September, the C&E industry will be recovering. This is the general trend too. As the Amber Code was cancelled last week, we believe that in the first half next year, more subsidies will be approved. We will also have regard to the utilization situation of the allowance as well as the anti-epidemic fund. We will also have to have regard to the internal resource deployment of the government. We will have regard to the general situation or direction as well before deciding on how we will sponsor the C&E industry. We will also see how many exhibitions or conventions will come to Hong Kong. Based on some insider information, we have a positive prospect. Some exhibitions who went elsewhere have plans to return to Hong Kong. We will keep in view the situation. Some business visitors will come to Hong Kong. In relation to air tickets, as well as the Hong Kong Tourism Board, there are a host of factors in relation to how to revitalize the economy and to attract people to come to Hong Kong. This will entail thorough discussion to see how we can turn the resources to good account. For example, air tickets. Some settle from Hong Kong, some come to Hong Kong. There are both long-haul and short-haul flights. Some will help tourists or visitors to come to Hong Kong via the GBA. We have to take a holistic view at the situation to see how we can revive the tourism as well as the economy of Hong Kong. We have to see how we can mobilize resources to appeal to others to come to Hong Kong. This is the general situation. Dr. Chow Man Kong, you mentioned the scheme in relation to C&E industry. Can it be extended to non-Hong Kong CEC or Asia World Expo? Can other venues be covered? We actually took a very targeted approach. We hope that we will attract international exhibitions as well as some local exhibitions for Asia World Expo and Hong Kong CEC. These are two more common venues. Exhibitions conducive to the long-term economic interest of Hong Kong will also be convened. Therefore, resources are used on these two venues. Next member, Mr. Sunny Tan. Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I thank the government for the arrangement 0+3 so that the textile industry or the fur industry immediately called a halt to a show in Korea, and a decision was made for it to come back to Hong Kong. This can also see an improvement in the recovery of the local industry. I'm in support of this scheme, but then I have several questions. Organizers basically support it, but then we also have participants and exhibitors. Anti-Epidemic Fund AEF covered these people as well. Will there be any other subsidies to render assistance to them? For locals, they can basically use a fund. So what about international exhibitions with the contractors? So what about the subcontractors? For a lot of industries, when they have to hold exhibitions, they have trade unions or chambers of commerce. There is an international chamber of commerce in relation to fur industry. They would come to Hong Kong to hold a conference. This happens outside the convention, but they actually take place in tandem. As I said in other channels, a company might hold a vendor summit, and the supplier has an annual conference. So how can Hong Kong appeal to them to come to Hong Kong to hold a general conference? I did approach Invest Hong Kong as well as the administration, and I had a rough picture that it would go to MICE of the Hong Kong Tourism Board. It falls within that scope. I touched base with them, and there should be subsidies. And I'd like to see how the Hong Kong Tourism Board can collaborate with the administration, as there are two separate departments. So how can we encourage them to give more assistance or allowances to these industries? In relation to allowances, we hope that we will sponsor private exhibitors. So how can we provide assistance to chambers of commerce as well? Apart from private organizations, we also hope that the funding will be shared. In the past, there were such schemes as well, and they were successful. These subsidies, we hope that will allow them to come to Hong Kong to hold exhibitions. For some subsidies, you can come back next year and they will be given to you. We have to think of ways to encourage them to achieve cost effectiveness. As you come to Hong Kong, we also have to see the result. Otherwise, if you come back again without results last time, we will not give you allowance. It was mentioned when chambers of commerce came to Hong Kong, how can they organize a conference at the same time? I think that there should be collaboration across different departments. For example, the Hong Kong Tourism Board, Hong Kong Trade Development Council, when these chambers of commerce are interested and when they come to Hong Kong, how we can render assistance, in what way can we help them? Mr. Tan, for overseas participants, can you render assistance? Can you give them subsidies? For international participants, we'd like to give funding to organizers so that they can share the allowances. In terms of expenditure for local participants, for local exhibitors. They can actually leverage on SME Export Marketing Fund to share the burden. Next one. Dr. Wendy Hong. Thank you, Chairman. In the past few years, Hong Kong lost several internationally renowned brands. They went to Bangkok, Singapore, Dubai. Cosmetics, French cuisine, jewelry, seafood exhibitions went to Singapore. Food went to Bangkok. For fur, it went to Dubai. Will we target these lost internationally renowned brands and work on this aspect and to appeal them to come to Hong Kong, to return to Hong Kong? For overseas buyers, they also have concerns when they arrived at the Hong Kong International Airport if they test positive. So what can they do? They have to complete a quarantine lasting 5 days. But as I understand, some exhibitors would like to go back to their own place or origin, despite the fact that this is not under the portfolio of the administration today. That is to say, the Commerce and Economic Bureau. But then can arrangements be made in this regard?
譬如珠寶
Different exhibitors have been to Dubai and Singapore. So we plan to have discussion with them to convince them to return to Hong Kong. We have heard views that they would like to return to Hong Kong because they said that after they had held exhibitions in other countries, they had a different experience compared to that in Hong Kong. They think that there are many business opportunities in Hong Kong, be it the Asia World Expo or the Hong Kong Tourism Board. They have been actively trying to appeal to these exhibitors. So that's why we have this 1.4 billion subsidy scheme. We want to have long-term exhibitions here. It will take some time for us to recover the CNE industry. For the exhibitors, if they are subsidized and they see that there are business opportunities in Hong Kong, then there will be a bigger chance for us to appeal to them to return to Hong Kong. And we will reflect the members' views to the relevant policy bureau to see whether we will have policies in the future to offer assistance to different sectors. Any follow-up question? Do you support this item? Yes. Next, Mr. Ma Fung Kwok. Thank you, Chair. I give my support to the vision of this project to recover the CNE industry. Apart from offering support to exhibitors, we also have to work with the catering industries, airline industries, etc. Is the administration aware that over the past 3 years, there have been a lot of business suspensions in different sectors? Does the trade or sector have enough staff, and whether it is ready to resume businesses in the industry? We know that Cathay Pacific, in terms of its ranking, has been dropping. We know the reason behind it, and there have been disputes between employees and employers. There are also suspensions of flights, and the airline tickets have been expensive. Would the company be capable for supporting the resumption of the industry? Also, a lot of foreign exhibitors would like to use Hong Kong as a way to enter into the mainland market. Has the administration estimated what kind of impacts there are in terms of losing foreign exhibitors? Secretary, please. I thank member for the question. I will ask my colleague, Mr. Johan Wong, to respond. Thank you, Mr. Ma, for the question. As mentioned by the Secretary, we are confident about the recovery of the C&E industry. We have consulted the trade, and they welcome the subsidy schemes from the government. For those who plan to come to hold exhibitions, in the long run, say the exhibitors and suppliers, they have their own planning. So our suggestion is to propose a 3-year-long scheme. As mentioned by the Secretary, we hope that there will be an upward trend in terms of the recovery of the industry. As member said, in terms of staffing arrangement or manpower, and also supporting facilities and measures for other sectors, we need some time or some buffer time to help recover the industry so that it can resume to what we saw in the pre-pandemic level. As for the performance of airline companies, I believe that as we gradually relax our quarantine measures or anti-epidemic measures, I believe once we see a further relaxation of these anti-epidemic measures, the sector will be able to cater for the need for the recovery of the sector. As for resumption of quarantine-free travel, we need to work with the relevant policy bureau, and it is a matter of public hygiene. There will be an announcement relating to the latest anti-epidemic measures, and there will be an announcement at 3 p.m. today. I would like to follow up on the question about airline companies. I've been talking to airline companies, and they said that they haven't been able to offer training and recruit enough people to run their businesses. So overall, they do not have the capacity to provide full services. And this is not desirable because in the past, our airline companies were very reputable. What are the reasons behind the expensive air tickets? Have you looked into this? Secretary, I know that you have experience in the airline industry. Well, I have left the airline industry for some time now. As far as I understand, during the epidemic, airline companies have made great adjustments to their staffing arrangement. And due to various reasons, many of their staff have left their posts. It's hard for them to resume the manpower level to the pre-pandemic level right away, and it takes time for them to train their staff due to safety reasons. I understand that they've been actively recruiting people and training airline staff, and so it will take some time for them to fully resume their services. I believe with further relaxation of anti-epidemic measures, we will see resumption of flights. For example, British Airlines, they have also resumed flights to Hong Kong. And I believe that we will see an increase in capacity in airline companies. But it's hard for us to expect airline companies to resume capacity right away. I understand that the government has been having discussions with airline companies in terms of the capacity and recovery of their businesses. It's not under the portfolio of my bureau, but I believe that the government has, within different departments, a consensus on helping airline industry resume, and once our border is fully opened to the international world, we will help revive the economy. Next, Ms. Eunice Yong. Chair, I support this scheme as it will cover 2023 to 2026 and it will help revive our economy. We have timetable to resume our economy and businesses. I noticed that for the C&E industry, there is the HKCEC and AWE. Well, last month, according to the news, there was an entertainment exhibition in the AWE, but there were very few participants. So few that exhibitors have to patronize each other's businesses, and no arrangements were made to transport participants to the venue. I understand that the government has different supporting measures, but we also have to pay attention to the willingness of exhibitors to stay in Hong Kong. So how do you convince exhibitors to stay in Hong Kong to hold exhibitions? We see that for construction exhibitions and INT exhibitions and various other exhibitions, we saw quite a number of participants and visitors. How do you step up publicity and step up transportation and other supporting measures to provide convenience to exhibitors to hold exhibitions in these two venues? You cannot only use HKCEC because there will be a saturation. How do you encourage exhibitors to use AWE to organize exhibitions and events as well? We'll see a drop of 50% of exhibitions over the past 2 years, from 170 something to 140 some exhibitions. So that was a huge decrease. We need the Asia World Expo to support our local C&E industry. I hope the administration can let us know how we can revive the C&E industry. Secretary, please. The Asia World Expo is a very good exhibition venue. I have also paid attention to the complaints from exhibitors that there was no undertaking of how to promote exhibitions, and there were supposed to be shuttle buses to bring visitors to the venue, but there were no such arrangements. I think it was the failure on the part of the organizers who did not provide the measures they promised to offer to exhibitors. I have been to various exhibitions myself, and I saw that there were a lot of visitors. We could take the Airport Express directly to Asia World Expo. Of course, the expenses would be a bit higher. Normally, organizers would arrange shuttle buses to bring visitors to the AWE. In the future, if we hold exhibitions in the AWE, we'll have to have enough communication with the organizers and the exhibitors. If they do not provide enough measures, it would be meaningless for them to hold such exhibitions, because if they do not provide these measures, they will not be able to receive financial assistance from us in the future or next time. So these are all considerations we take into account when we decide whether to provide financial assistance to them. I hope organizers will see if it is feasible for them to provide all these supporting measures. I heard that the administration said they would communicate with organizers. I hope in the future, if these organizers apply for subsidies, the administration would take the initiative to provide some basic services and check with them whether they can provide supporting measures, and if not, how would you be able to assist? If they had checked with them, what happened last month would not have taken place. So I hope the administration would take the initiative to do something in this regard. As you are aware, the transportation expenses to AWE is a bit more expensive, and hopefully you can provide more supporting measures to the public to encourage more participants or visitors.
慎重考慮每一方。
Thank you for your opinion, and we will see how we can make improvements. Next one, Mr. Duncan Chiu. First, to declare, as the chairperson as well as my company, we have been holding a lot of conferences or activities in the Hong Kong CEC. Also, AWE traffic is a major concern. First of all, I'm in support of this proposal. I also agree with the Secretary, as we have lost quite a lot of exhibitions over the past 2 years. Some exhibitions based on technology have been asking us when they can return to Hong Kong. I think that it is likely that they will return. We will see how we can appeal to them to come back to Hong Kong. We do not have a crystal ball, and we do not know when we can return to normality. Although I agree, I support this proposal. In the coming 3 years, one of the priority concerns or considerations is new exhibitions, new activities. For activities held in the past, do they lose the edge? Is that the case? Previously, only new activities are covered. The next question is similar to Ms. Yong's. Over the last 2 years, quite some friends organized some activities. They did run risks because they are not sure whether there will be any footfall. They may make losses in the future if they make the application. Well, they have to give it a thought. The display footfall might not be high, but will they be penalized? Will their chances of success be undermined? Probably some overseas clients cannot come to Hong Kong. When the epidemic situation takes a turn for the worse, they cannot come to Hong Kong. There are actually very dedicated exhibitors who would like to help the industry, so we shouldn't just reject them because of a small number of exhibitions. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Duncan Chiu, for your question. First of all, we do not just target new exhibitors. Old exhibitors and new exhibitors are actually treated in the same manner. We are just aiming to attract new exhibitors. This does not mean that the old ones will lose their edge. We will conduct objective assessments. There might not be a very high footfall, probably due to Amber Code, so the footfall will be different. There will be a gap. We will conduct an objective analysis, an assessment without the Amber Code when the tourists or visitors can go to the exhibitions. The situation is different now. We will objectively assess the situation. We welcome exhibitors and we will give them high ratings as long as they can bring positive impact to Hong Kong. No follow-up. Next one, Mr. Edmund Wong. Just now I attended yet another briefing on aviation, which is, well, we also had contact, close to 30% of the passenger carrying capacity will be increased to 70% in 2023, and it will only hit 100% in 2024. There will be 200 million in 2024. And the figures will rise to 200 million in 2027. That is to say, we have to snatch the business within a very short period of time in accordance with paragraph 13. If in the coming 2 years we only have 200 million, how can we snatch the business in 2026 and 2027? That would only account for 700 million out of 1.4 billion. When the world has already recovered, how can we actually snatch the exhibitions from other places? So, Secretary, can you tell us about the distribution? Yes, I will defer to my colleague in relation to calculation. In paragraph 13, that is our estimation. You will see in 2023 to 2024, the figure is 200 odd million. The reason is that we estimate that the recovery will take a little time at the onset. So in 2023 to 2024, the amount will not be that great, especially for large-scale exhibitions. The planning cycle will be longer. Even if they are going to return, that will still take a little bit of time. For the year 2026 and 2027, the year starts from the 1st of April to the 30th of June. So for 254 million, that will actually happen within months. The figures will increase. This is our estimates only. But of course, if the rate of recovery is faster than our estimation, this is what we will be glad to see. We have already had regard to the situation, and if need be, we will more carefully assess the situation. But then the current scheme is the most suitable against the current backdrop. Well, I think that this is rather conservative. The aviation industry showed me a graph from end last year to the current year. There was a comparison between Singapore and Hong Kong, and the recovery of the aviation industry was actually keeping a horizontal trend, whereas the other place showed an exponential upward trend. Footfall is actually linked to exhibitions, so we need to incorporate a wow factor to appeal to other exhibitors. It has been close to 4 years, and we might not be able to achieve that effect. Will we take stock of the situation? Of course, anti-epidemic measures are one of the factors. But for aviation industry, shipping industry, they are also relevant. Upon recovery, the footfall in other places is actually a good indicator. We'd like to snatch the exhibitors as well as visitors from other places. Otherwise, the 1.4 billion will go down the drain. Thank you, member. Let me clarify one more point with you. The estimated amount, well, it actually does not mean that we can only spend 204 million in 2023 to 2024, as long as they warrant our support. After assessment, they can spend more than that. Our usual practice is that we will, based on the best predictions, map out the rough picture in the coming year. But then it does not mean that that is the cap of the money that can be spent in that financial year. But then as the CED Bureau, we will definitely track cautiously. Is this actually, well, with this benchmarking, is that your expectations of the situation? Basically, that is your estimation. Is that correct? Yes. So for each exhibition, 20 million will be sponsored. Probably you can elaborate on it. We also communicated with Asia World Expo and Hong Kong CEC to see the booking status of their venues. In relation to the passenger carrying capacity, that is, of course, one of the indicators. But that would also include other visitors. But then, right now, we are just targeting exhibitors that will take part in the exhibitions. Of course, we will be glad to see if the recovery is taking place at a faster rate than anticipated. The C&E industry, well, I know that you have maintained a close dialogue with the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, as there are international exhibitions. They have already booked some venues. You can see for years 2023 to 24 and 2024 to 2025, you will have some planning in your mind. But then Mr. Emin Wong is just thinking how we can attract more exhibitors, how to snatch more businesses. So you can see how you will proactively seek more businesses from overseas to come to Hong Kong to plug the gap.
會展啊，或者
I think we have some vacant venues and spaces, and so we really have to think of ways to attract exhibitors. Mr. Holden Chow. Thank you, Chair. I speak in support to the scheme. I think we need this support for the C&E industry to attract more business. Well, I have two suggestions. First, publicity. We have experienced the epidemic for some 3 years now. We have to tell the world that we have resumed businesses and tell them that they can return to Hong Kong. So we really have to put up massive publicity campaigns and spend some money on advertisements to promote for our C&E industry. Over the past 2 to 3 years, some exhibitors may have already gone to other Asian countries for holding exhibitions. To lure them to come back, I think we really have to think of some ways and tell them that we have been back in business. I know that the administration has been working on that, but this should be an ongoing initiative. Secondly, drawing reference to the Financial Global Summit as well as the Rugby Sevens activities and the Hong Kong Legal Week, they were all held within a short period of time, and so we told the participants that they could first join the Legal Week and then Rugby Sevens, and all in one trip. So would the administration consider for some major themed activities, you rely on those big or large-scale themed activities to attract visitors and make arrangements so that all the major events are held at around the same time? With those large-scale or major events, I think we can offer some attractiveness to lure visitors to come. I believe you probably did something like that before, but since we need to step up publicity to attract visitors, I think maybe we can try these strategies again. some great suggestions from Mr. Holden Chow. Thank you, member, for the suggestion to ensure resumption of businesses. We require concerted efforts of HKTDC and also other government departments. They do wide publicity work to welcome foreign visitors. We at the same time promote to foreigners about the economic condition of Hong Kong. C&E industry is a bit special because we usually have a list or a name list, and we usually take the initiative to lure exhibitors. For example, some jewelry exhibitors went to the Middle East, and we are trying to ask them to come back. But we have to take into consideration the constraints of venues and time, so we adopt a targeted approach to lure those exhibitors who will be helpful for our industries. As CE mentioned, we have to tell good Hong Kong story. And our colleagues also help to promote to the world that we're back in businesses with the effort of our ETO colleagues. So we will follow up on the suggestions made by members, and there will be concerted efforts from different government departments. Next, Mr. Edward Leung. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Secretary. According to the paper, it says that the scheme will launch from July next year. I understand that it is a date proposed in the policy address, but 2 or 3 months ago, I went to Indonesia twice. I understand that they've opened the boundary or border, and I understand that people there would like to visit Hong Kong. So my question is whether the scheme can be rolled out earlier. Why does it have to be July? Apart from financial assistance, would you offer other types of assistance? Drawing reference to other countries, I see that they offer support to exhibitors in terms of banners and advertisements. Can we do a little bit more in other respects? Thank you, member, for the question. The scheme will be rolled out from the 1st of July. Since 2020, we already launched the Anti-Epidemic Fund to support the C&E industry, which will end on the 30th of June. So there is a continuity between the two schemes. It's just that the new scheme will begin from the 1st of July. Before the 1st of July, applicants can continue to apply for the existing funding. As for other supporting measures, I believe HKCEC and the AWE can communicate what kind of needs they need in terms of banner support. I think the exhibitors should communicate with the venue operators, and if needed, we will also provide appropriate support or assistance. Next, Dr. Kennedy Wong. Thank you, Chair. I principally support or endorse the content of this discussion paper. I have some suggestions, and I hope Mr. Yao and your team can take into consideration the rapid development of the virtual world. Would the government consider allocating resources into supporting virtual exhibitions? Mr. Duncan Chiu reminded us that our technology may not be mature enough in this regard, but can the government and the trade take the lead to build these virtual platforms? The government may devote more resources into it, and on our part, we can attract more talents so that there can be online and offline exhibitions in Hong Kong. Thank you for the question. For virtual exhibitions, according to information from our colleagues, we do have virtual exhibitions in Hong Kong. Our next agenda item is scheduled for 3:55 p.m. I understand that the government officials for the next item are not here yet, so we have ample time for this discussion item. For online exhibitions, in April 2021, we expanded the SME marketing fund to cover online exhibitions. So currently, we do have support for local SMEs, and the CE also announced in his policy address that this special measure would be further extended to the 30th of June 2026, which is in line with the launching date of our new scheme. So we will continue to offer support to SMEs exhibitors. We have looked at surveys done by the trade. I understand that they do want to hold or continue to hold physical exhibitions. So this new scheme, which will be launched on the 1st of July next year, will offer help to them. This is not the question I'm asking. I'm not saying that you should only give money to SMEs to hold exhibitions. I was asking whether you would consider devoting resources to combine the effort of the government and the sector to build pioneering virtual platforms so that Hong Kong can lead the trend globally. Mr. Duncan Chu mentioned that the technology for virtual tools may not be so mature. We need money and we need talents. Can the administration provide resources in this regard? Thank you, Mr. Wong, for the question. We will reflect Mr. Wong's views to the Information and Technology Bureau to see if we have the technology to hold virtual exhibitions to achieve economic benefits. We will discuss with the INT Bureau to see how we can work on this area. No more questions, Mr. Wong. I will give the floor to Mr. Duncan Chu. Mr. Duncan Chu is an expert in IT. Well, since we have ample time, I'll continue to ask questions. I agree with what Dr. Kennedy Wong said. We have many talents in the exhibition industry. If we have a party that can take the lead, say if the government can take the lead to build the industry, I definitely give my support. Turning to another subject, we want to promote the exhibition industry. So the government is offering fund to the sector. So this is a passive strategy. I was wondering if we can do something more actively. Can we spend money and work with world-class exhibitors? Say, take Singapore as an example. They really try to attract talents from the aviation industry. I understand some of the exhibitions are very commercial. So where there is money, they go to those places. We understand that some exhibitors or organizers went to Portugal because there was money there. For the world-class events, I think we should take the initiative to attract them to come to Hong Kong instead of sitting here to wait for them to sign up for the scheme. say, for research and development and fintech industry, can we really draw up some schemes or
Secretary, thank you, Mr. Chiu. Yes, actually, member mentioned a very good point. We target advanced technology, AI, etc. If we can introduce these enterprises to Hong Kong, we can also drive the development of the C&E industry. There is link. If they come to establish presence in Hong Kong, the C&E industry will also see a change. In TDC Invest Hong Kong, they will have other arrangements for C&E industry. They will have a new mindset. So they can actually dovetail the policies implemented by the Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises so that we can attract high-tech enterprises so that they will have their talents being introduced into Hong Kong. We will see a change. The nature and the demands of the C&E industry will also see a change. Thank you, Chairman. I think the C&E industry also plays a pivotal role in driving the development of the industry, AI, etc. These are very important enterprises in Hong Kong, and they will drive the development of the C&E industry. Members, if you wish to speak, you can press the button to request speaking in the second round. Otherwise, I myself will ask questions. We understand that because of the epidemic, a lot of visitors or exhibitors could not come to Hong Kong. There is practically zero as a result. The government supported smaller enterprises in Hong Kong. I myself have been to quite a lot of exhibitions as well. The vast majority are actually local citizens. With the weak economy amid the epidemic, actually they injected confidence into these smaller enterprises. The exhibitions, the cost was actually very economical. Some of them were even free of charge. So indeed, the government did something good. It was a shot in the arm. You provided a lot of support, and I support the main direction, the general direction. This is the optimal time as well. Had this plan been rolled out a year ago, or some time ago when there was 0+3, this would not have been as convincing to citizens. At this moment, when you roll out this scheme, a lot of citizens will find it the optimal time when Hong Kong is returning to normality with the policies rolled out in mainland China. This is the optimal time. We can see how we can recover the ground and snatch businesses. Some enterprises or exhibitions saw a shift, like jewelry. Let me share with you. Some friends working in this industry went to Singapore. Well, do not say that we are complimenting ourselves. But actually, when they conduct businesses in Singapore, they have to pay tax. But then in Hong Kong, they do not have to pay tax. That is exactly the reason why they like going to Hong Kong, coming to Hong Kong so much. they literally forgot the point that they had to pay tax in Singapore while conducting exhibitions, making exhibitions in Singapore. So they actually miss Hong Kong. That could be a shot in the arm. We do have our edge. Exhibitions are coming back to Hong Kong, and I believe that a series of exhibitions will also follow suit. You can see the vacancy or empty slot for exhibitions, and you can see whether there is any exhibition, any exhibitor can come to Hong Kong to fill the gap. Mr. Yao, you have been holding this capacity for half a year. I know that you work so hard. I saw you quite frequently, even at weekends. The CEDB is the most important to the industry, so we hope that you will consider how you can bring businesses to Hong Kong, to the industry. The CEDB will definitely do its level best to work on the recovery of the industry as well as the economy. We hope that chairman and members will also support CEDB with CEDB doing its bit. We can take the local economy to the next level. If there is no second round in the floor, we are almost finished with the first discussion item. I believe that most members are in support of this discussion item. I will bring this discussion item to a close. Now I invite the administration of the next discussion item to enter the conference room. Discussion item number 3. Enhanced provision of calibration services by the Standards and Calibration Laboratory of the Innovation and Technology Commission. We have with us Ms. Rebecca Poon, Commissioner for Innovation and Technology, Mr. Lau Wai Ming, Assistant Commissioner for Innovation and Technology Bureau, Quality Services, Mr. Chen Kin Wah, Head of Laboratory, and Dr. Stephen Yang Sheng Long, Senior Electronics Engineer. First of all, we invite Commissioner to walk us through the papers. Thank you, Chairman. I'm glad to have the opportunity to walk you through the papers. The calibration services by the SCL, and we plan to, well, let us first watch a clip.
標準及校正實驗所作為中國香港物理
The SCL, as the official custodian, supports the metrology reference standards and also promote the development of the industry and also facilitate global collaboration. Reference standard is based on reference standard recognition as well as legal reference. It is an indispensable part of our life. Foodstuffs electronic is also based on weight or usage. We need accurate surfaces. There are 5 main functions. First, we need to maintain measurement equipment of various users. Second, we take part in international metrology activities so that they will be recognized globally. And we also provide calibration services to users of measurement standards and measuring equipment. Fourth, we provide accredited proficiency testing services to laboratories to showcase their competence. We also disseminate metrological knowledge and techniques. We have been improving our service levels over the past few decades. The SCL will be moved to TKOJUB in 2024 to enhance the provision of services rendered to the public. They require antenna to receive electromagnetic signals. Different technology leverage different signals, and they will cover different sections of a spectrum. Medical equipment will have to pass the EMC before they can be rolled out in the market. The EMC test will use the reference antennas that is internationally recognized. We will also have to monitor the relevant signals. We can ensure the safety and traceability that is also conducive to local academia, R&D, to support the accuracy and traceability of antenna test. Laboratories also plan to provide services in terms of antenna chambers. In December last year, Hong Kong TDC in electrical products that account for 70% or above of the total export in Hong Kong, including telecommunications equipment and computer equipment. So in telecommunications, Hong Kong is a place where this is very important in terms of its development. Antenna is indispensable equipment. If Hong Kong has such infrastructures, it can definitely help the industry. Hong Kong does not have a facility that can provide antenna calibration services. If we can complete these projects, this will definitely benefit the industry. Currently, we need to ship the equipment to other places around the world for testing. The time, money, and exploitation documents required definitely affect the accuracy of our services. Electromagnetic waves are applicable in a lot of different places, including our Bluetooth earphones, mobile phones, base stations, etc. That also requires wireless communication technology. With a smart city development, this is the most fundamental facilities. If we have calibration services that can improve the accuracy of our services, no matter 5G development or 6G development, they also require the calibration services of these testing equipment. Of course, I do believe that they are necessary and they can help our industry to develop. With the advances in communication technology, we used to have 4G, right now we have 5G, and in the future we have 6G. These require different kinds of antennas. Medical technologies also require different antennas. Medical testing also requires a high level of accuracy. If we have such equipment, not only can it drive the development of high technology antennas, this can also facilitate our collaboration with the GBA. We know that the antenna industry in the GBA is very large and they have the leading position. Very accurate calibration equipment can take us from the fundamental theories to innovation.
校准天线的测试系统。
To ensure the accuracy of the testing results, they require regular, high-level calibration standards. This is a very meaningful input. Not only can it provide support in terms of antenna research, it can also provide assurance in terms of purchasing. So establishing such a calibration service laboratory can benefit Hong Kong as well as the GBA. The National Metrology Institute of Thailand is also studying these studies. We need to use anechoic chambers. It can simulate an environment without any interference. The walls, ceilings are also equipped with equipment or material that can absorb signals to improve the accuracy of the testing results. The construction of such chamber is to install metallic framework partitions, and there will also be wave-absorbing materials. Different parameter tests in relation to antennas will also be available. They can measure the efficiency to make sure that they are traceable to SI to satisfy the need of local trades. That is the end of our introduction. Thank you, Chairman. Apart from the introduction from the clip, do you have any introduction in relation to financial impact? We estimate that it will take 50 million Hong Kong dollars, spanning across 3 financial years, as you can see in paragraph 13 of the document. The timetable is listed in paragraph 18, as we have to tie in with the timetable of moving the office to Chang Kwan O. So, upon acquiring the property in the middle of 2024, through tendering, we will source suitable contractors to help with the construction of the relevant chamber. We will also conduct tests, and service will commence immediately. Because there is a great demand of anechoic chambers, there is no such metrology facilities, and our industry needs to go overseas, to go global, to look for similar services, so that we have to do well in this regard. We are using existing resources as well as manpower to maintain operation.
Now, time for members to pose questions. There are 4 members who have pressed the button. They are Duncan Chu, Eunice Yong, Dr. Wendy Hong, and Mr. Holden Chow. Since this is about the financial proposal, members, if you have direct or indirect pecuniary interests regarding the discussion items today, please, before you speak according to the requirements under 83A of Rules of Procedures, declare the nature of such interests. And please also take note of Section 84 of the Rules of Procedures regarding voting in case of direct pecuniary interests. Mr. Duncan Chu will go first. Thank you, Chair. I support the building of this laboratory equipment because it will benefit our research and development, and also development of new technology. It will take 2 years, as mentioned by Commissioner. They'll move to a new building, so they will start installation in September 2024. Well, do you have to start the tender so early in June 2023? By the time you install the equipment, it will be September 2024. Should the 2 items on the agenda be made closer to each other so that tenderers can provide more suitable services? My other question is public concern about radiation and EMC. There are few areas in Hong Kong or districts in Hong Kong, especially those with private buildings. They are concerned about radiation. So can the administration do more publicity work? I understand that OFCA has been doing well because when there are new equipment installed, they inform the public about that. With the installation of antenna, you may face objections from the public. For those 5G antennas installed on rooftops, actually the level of radiation is lower than that from a microwave oven. But members of the general public may not be aware of that. This equipment that you're proposing may benefit from the development of smart city. So will we be able to see EMC or radiation test results as you install these new equipment? Can you do more publicity work to let the public know the level of radiation coming from the equipment? Would you do something like what the Consumers Council has done? Thank you, Mr. Chu, for the views. Regarding timetables, we have to stick with the timetable provided from the ASD, and we will resume the property in 2024. With members' support, we will, in accordance with established procedures, seek funding approval from the Legislative Council. Once we have obtained the funding approval, we will invite tenders, and it will be around June 2023. The anechoic chambers and the relevant equipment required cannot be purchased directly. So after we make the orders, the relevant party will have to build it in a specific place, and it takes some time to build the equipment. So it's not that we are purchasing the equipment directly. We would like to provide the relevant services as soon as possible as well. So we find this timetable we propose more feasible. So we have to wait for the equipment to be built, and after it's shipped to Hong Kong, and after we have resumed the premises, then we can do the installation and so on. That's why we propose this timetable. If we are able to compress the timetable in the future, we will try to do it. Regarding radiation concerns, we would be happy to work with AFCA, because it's part of our mission to do more research and development. I think the general public need more scientific knowledge. As mentioned in our papers, we do not have a lot of staff in the lab, but apart from offering calibration services, we also work with universities and secondary schools, and we hold public activities to promote knowledge about calibration and metrology. It is very related to our daily lives, but the general public may not be aware of that, so we'll see what we can do. Do the other government officials or members would like to supplement? Mr. Chen, right? Yes. Thank you, member, for the question. As mentioned by the commissioner, we have to place orders for the equipment. And also, as mentioned in the papers, by the end of 2023, after awarding the contract, then we can commission the factory to do the production. These are all carried out overseas. It cannot be done in Hong Kong. We estimate that we'll need 9 months to go through all these processes. After it's shipped here, we'll have to look at the construction. That after the chamber is constructed, then we have to fulfill the relevant requirements from the Fire Services Department. Then we can start using the chamber. All the installation will be done afterwards. So by early 2025, we can do the relevant commissioning and testing. Thank you. Ms. Eunice Yong. I support the proposal, and I understand that it will take you 1 year to build the anechoic chambers. We see that we have this kind of lab in the US, Japan, and Germany, etc. And you also mentioned that Thailand is building this kind of infrastructure as well. Are we trying to catch up with the world? Are there more advanced lab equipment? Because we'll only see the completion of such infrastructure by 2026. I want to know is what you're proposing the newest or the latest technology we can see, or are there other new technology being adopted in other countries but we failed to catch up? We see different types of electronic products in Hong Kong. And what is the utilization of your lab? I want to know the demand for this equipment. And without this equipment currently, who do they go to? Do they use the labs in the GBA? Concerning costs, with this equipment to be completed, would it help lower the cost of products or manufacturing of products? Thank you, Chair. 3 questions, Commissioner. I'll ask my colleague Dr. Yang to tell us more as well. There is a high capacity with our SCL. Our colleagues frequently participate in international metrology association, and our lab work is recognized around the world, and we have over 190 calibration and measurement capabilities published in the International Bureau of Weights and Measures Key Comparison Database. Without the equipment now, I understand that the sector have to look for relevant services overseas. As for situation overseas, I'll ask Dr. Yang to tell us more. Currently in the mainland, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, all these cities provide calibration services. With that provided by in Beijing, meeting the international standard. The fees charged by SCL have all along been reasonable for the market. So for the local sector fees or the charging of fees is not the biggest concern. What Ms. Yong was saying, whether the cost or the fees is a major concern for users. Well, currently the infrastructure has not been built, so where do the stakeholders go when they require such services? And with this infrastructure completed in the future, well, how would it benefit the stakeholders? Well, it saves them a lot more time because they'll not have to send the antennas overseas, because during the shipping processes or the delivery processes, the damages may be caused. So if such services are available in Hong Kong, they'll definitely use the services here. Thank you, Ms. Yong, for the question. She asked 3 questions. Regarding the new antenna metrology infrastructure, we have been liaising closely with our international counterparts. The infrastructure to be built will meet the latest international standard. SCL provides calibration services. So we take part in activities held by international associations to make sure that the services we provide meet the international standard. Say, for example, in Beijing, the calibration office or lab takes part in the international events, and we can make comparison with our international counterparts to ensure that the services we provide can catch up with the international standard. You mentioned that there are similar antenna infrastructure in the Greater Bay Area, but the level of accuracy or the accuracy of their services are not as high because we attach importance to the traceability. So we really attach importance to the accuracy of the services. For laboratories in GBA, they have to depend or they stick to the standard imposed by the National Institute of Metrology in Beijing as they offer their services.
I can ask in the second round. Next one, Dr. Wendy Hong. Thank you, Chairman. I am also in support of constructing this laboratory despite the technical document, which is quite complicated. I still support it. After the establishment of the laboratory, will it be lent to the academia or the R&D institutions for research purposes? That is to say, they can share the facilities, given the lack of such facilities in Hong Kong. As it involves standard calibration, are the standards in Hong Kong and China associated with each other? Are we meeting the international standards? Standards and calibration services are important. They are fundamental to other industries, despite the fact that it might not account for a high percentage in the GDP. Physical and chemical tests are available, so you can accurately test the amount. For example, for the powder formula, testing was passable, but then for toxicological study, in our standards we have not yet covered these technologies. Will these technology be covered apart from physical chemical testing? Will you also consider introducing biological authentication? Regarding standards, I will defer to Dr. Stephen Yang. Regarding the first question, whether it will be lent to the academia, some universities, R&D, they have wireless anechoic antenna chambers. They are conducting tests for their products, EMC, and their scientific studies. The equipment is sent to the SCL with their facilities. We conduct calibration services for them. With reference to Appendix 1 of the documents, the SCL has to maintain the traceability, and we are providing calibration services to the highest standard. And we also calibrate the equipment in the university as well as R&D institutes, and then with the calibrated equipment, they conduct further tests. This is the process, so they will not borrow our chambers. The scope of work is different. Under the Innovation and Technology Commission, there are 3 schemes. HOCLES, in short, in English. Under HOCLES, there are different testing laboratories providing services in Hong Kong, including Chinese medicine chemical tests, medical tests, especially amid COVID. There are a lot of demands for medical tests. There are also tests for other medicines. So these are within the scope of the laboratory, which actually differs from the scope of work in the SCL. The SCL maintains International Traceability Unit. There are 7 basic units in SI: time, length, temperature, mass, etc. The SCL maintains the traceability of 6 of the units so that we meet the highest standard. We will be on a par with the international standards. The chemical units are under the portfolio of the government laboratory. Let me defer to my colleague in relation to standards. Dr. Yang. Let me introduce the standards. We are a member of an association so we can be their signature member. This CGPM, we provide a comprehensive network. We can ensure consistency. The standard is reflected in the international committee, that is to say, mutual recognition arrangement of the International Committee for Weights and Measures. There is International Bureau of Weights and Measures, key comparison database. If we meet the standard, you will be able to search the competency of the SCL online on the database. It will be shown there. Levels listed on the database are of high standard, and that is internationally recognized standard. No follow-up. Next one. Mr. Holden Chow. Thank you, Chairman. In principle, I recognize the need to construct a calibration facility. This calibration metrology facility, it can requirements. But I also want to ask, a lot of other countries have these facilities. If the metrology facilities are already available in other countries, for some new electronic equipment such as mobile phones, they have quite long history. They have a long period of time. So, when did metrology facilities start in other countries? Why do we construct these facilities just today, just from now on? If, as Ms. Yung said, we have to catch up, then this is necessary. But then, as she pointed out, we need to move with the times. Is this the latest arrangement? A couple of years later, will our counterparts have more advanced technologies so that we are lagging behind yet again? That is my concern. We have already joined CIPM MRA. So what about China? 2 questions. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hu Chao, for your question. I understand that Beijing joins the CIPM MRA. Hong Kong, China has also joined this arrangement. So that with 97 countries around the world, we have such arrangements as well. Are we lagging behind, or will we be lagging behind even further in the future? Let me defer to Dr. Yang. Thank you, Mr. Hu Chao, for your question. Antenna metrology infrastructures are not something new. They actually have a long history. There are decades of history. Recently, we received from the trade. They said that it would help them a lot if Hong Kong could construct antenna metrology infrastructures, because currently reference antennas have to be shipped overseas. On the one hand, shipment cost is very high. On the other hand, in the course of transport, probably there could be damage done to the facilities or infrastructures. If they take it overseas, they cannot use the equipment, then that will also be another type of loss. Regarding the equipment standard, the development of antenna technology is improving. Just like our mobile phones. They used to be 3G, 4G, right now 5G. In the future, we may have 6G. These are evolving. Antenna metrology infrastructures can support 5G metrology as well as EMC calibration demands. These can satisfy our demand right now for 6G. Since the technology does not have an established standard yet, for a lot of countries around the world, they are awaiting more resources so that we will see whether there is an upgrade capability in the future. But if we can have a chamber and then we have an upgrade, then this will be easier. Wan Chai Immigration Tower lacks space. We'd like to construct it, but then we lack space. With the facility in Changquano, we think that this is the optimal time. Not only can we support the trade, we can also establish or improve the capability of the facilities. Second round. Ms. Yong, thank you, Chairman. We are concerned after construction how it can actually help Hong Kong. The administration has already explained the nearest one is in Beijing with a higher standard. In the course of delivery or transportation, there might be other incidents, which leads to the fact that the products in Hong Kong might be unwilling to send them overseas. Of course, we want such a high standard laboratory in Hong Kong. If other people already have it, we will have it. Not only that, we also want to take it to the next level. Members are also concerned about safety. Have you conducted any evaluation, radiation, electromagnetic waves, any health impact assessments? Have you done any of these assessments? In the construction of this laboratory, have you ever have you considered snatching the business, attracting the business for the places included in the Belt and Road initiatives so that we can achieve synergy with the IP platform? Thank you, Ms. Yong, for your question. As we have been lacking place, we couldn't establish this facility. As we are going to move our laboratory, there is a chance for us to construct this new facility. We have to meet the highest standard, which meet the requirement of the international standard. Antenna technologies are evolving very fast. We have a satellite development company. Their businesses actually need the support of our calibration services. The GBA, as introduced in the clip, has acute, keen demand for antenna technologies. If we have such high standard facilities, these will be conducive to their development. It will be easier for them to send them to us for calibration services. We will only see a burgeoning demand. We need to keep our facilities to the highest possible standard, so we need to upgrade the equipment. On safety, this is going to be placed in our office premises.
Mr. Chen, please. Thank you, member, for the question. Let me supplement. For this future equipment, it is an enclosed structure. When we carry out calibration services, it will not cause any radiation. We understand that it's going to be an enclosed structure and it will be situated in a building. But how can you guarantee that the infrastructure will not cause any harm to human bodies? We will stick to the international standard. Perhaps Dr. Yang can tell us more. Please wait for me to call your names. Dr. Yang, please. To respond to Ms. Yong's question, the material we use to build the chamber is a radiation absorbent material. It's not a harmful material. So why are we using this material to build the chamber? Because we want to enhance the accuracy of the antenna. As mentioned, during the testing, we will first build a metal chamber which will block any signals from the outside world, so it will not be interfered by signals. As we carry out the tests, there will also be signals emitting from the chamber, but it will be blocked by the material as well. As seen in the video, the material is a kind of absorbing material to ensure that no signals will be deflected to interfere the tests. After installation, we will test the equipment to make sure that there is good isolation and there will not be any leakage of radiation. This kind of technology is quite mature around the world, so it is not a major concern for us. You haven't responded to my last question about IP Trade Center. Would it bring any benefits to Hong Kong in this regard? Commissioner, please. We propose this infrastructure to support our research and development. we have to have this kind of equipment to carry out scientific researches, to promote more breakthroughs in scientific researches so that more can be achieved in terms of intellectual property. If there are no other questions from other members, I'd like to pose some questions myself. I heard that this kind of technology existed since some decades ago, and we are now trying to catch up in this respect. I heard that stakeholders require such services, and how many such stakeholders we're talking about in Hong Kong? And also, what is the value of their businesses? Chair. My colleague was saying that this kind of collaboration services have existed for some decades. With the development of 5G and 6G technology, we find that there is greater demand for such services. Our laboratory has been offering such collaboration services to catch up with the demand from the industry. There are some 10 or 20 stakeholders who have inquired with us about the services, including hospitals, health bureau, and other laboratories which require collaboration services from us. Stakeholders include government departments as well. If we can successfully build this infrastructure, universities and other scientific research organizations or institutes will benefit from this infrastructure as well. Any other questions? If not, this will be the last meeting for this panel. I thank members for your support over the past year. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. If there is not any other business, meeting adjourned.